Archetype, Archive, Dark World. Let's watch.
Alright, whatever, guys.
Pulled these out of a wastebasket in the Konami offices. Top secret, can't share these with no one. Easy, they're skipping right to Master Rule. Targets, the Tarjays now. Zone Eater, Big Errata. Format, defining. Like Yatagarasu for the Banished Zone. Check this out.
What?
What is it?
Oh my god.
No idea. Fucking weird though, eh?
Wait, these videos? Oh, this is from a year ago, okay.
What else do we got?
You know Battle Fader?
I haven't seen one.
I am familiar with Battle Fader, yes.
That's all going away. No more Battle Phase. UL Empire was the last nail in the coffin. Honestly, it was a bad idea from the start.
So, how do you do damage?
They're working on it. Dice might be involved.
What about
But you don't need to do damage to have a proper deck.
I got rid of that too. You remember Forbidden Memories? You discard everything in your hand, you get a fusion summon. All gonna work like that now.
What, so we're all just playing Dark Worlds?
The fuck is a Dark World?
Is that were one of the first archetypes, right? I don't know if it's the first one, but it feels like it was a really old one. If I remember correct. I remember those cards, I remember the designs.
Is that the one with the chess guys or what?
What is going on?
Who the fuck are you? Oh shit, sorry, wrong house.
You could argue that cards are one of the top 3 most valuable things in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Next to life points and quintuple sleeving. Usually, you would like them to be in your hand from where you can play them, which is why having them removed from there before doing so would usually result in physical violence. As
That used to be like that, then cards started gaining effects when they are discarded or going
that
to
was
the
not part of
graveyard
the
or
rulebook
whatever.
before Duelist Alliance format, Konami offered players a way to streamline that aggression into their playstyle with the archetype Dark World. Much like we saw last time, decks centered around the graveyard are hardly a novel concept at this point, but with their debut in 2005, Dark Worlds were easily among the
2005! So yeah, this has to be one of the first archetypes. Like 2005 is like when GX came out, right? GX came out in 2005 in Japan, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. It was Dark World was also in GX 3 times. The last time King Dark World was the Torrent Jaden into Supreme King. Yeah, they appeared in the season 3, I think, right? In season 3. They were like they were there in the other dimension or whatever, I don't remember what it was called.
to commit to it to such a large extent.
Sending people
With a
to the
discard-heavy
stars.
strategy that emphasizes swarming, incredibly cool artwork that evokes dark fantasy through a slimy, organic lens, clearly influenced by H.R. Giger, and a substantial showing in one of the anime's most interesting arcs, Dark Worlds quickly became a popular deck that tended
Definitely
up to
an
be
interesting
quite a bit of
arc.
history. We'll be dividing the support waves in 3 groups, that being the original lineup, the first structure deck from 2011, and the new one from 22.
Oh, so they came out at the same time of GX, right? Oh, I thought they were older. Okay, I'm misremembering. I have my like the wrong timeline there, because elemental energy is probably like the second or third. Oh no, this is a Japanese one. So I have no idea. Then I have no idea of the packs that were like out in Japan.
And it all started the
It's
way all
OCG,
good
I
decks
mean.
did, with some worthless normal monsters. Jur, Knight of Dark World, is a level 4 with 1800 attack and 1500
Dude, the flavor text. The name of this illustrious knight is known by all the residents of that world. He never oppresses the commoners. Totally not. This knight doesn't oppress the commoners.
defense, which, while not abysmal for 2005, was entirely outclassed 2 years earlier by Archfiend Soldier. No, the archetypal synergy does not
Weird sound every time you talk, Pepper. Oh yeah, it has to be the fun then. I'm gonna turn it off. Alright, no fun anymore. Sorry about that. Yeah, okay.
Use the stat line, and no, there aren't any sick rescue rabbit texts that made the card worth running. The entire point of the monster is just to be a vanilla mascot for the archetype. Wow, he never oppresses the commoners? Well, that's a lie. But let's say we're ignoring the anime canon. Good for him. Too bad all the other guys do and then call him a pussy. Their other normal...
No, I love when the flavor texts do things like that. That they are basically jokes.
Monster, because the last one was such a slam dunk, is Renge, Gatekeeper of Dark World. Are you sure that's
a lot
the
of defense
and not the actual gate? My man looks like he got lost on the way to the UA.
Look at those hands.
I've had over 40 pizzas in the last 30 days.
It's a level 4 with 100 attack and 2100 defense, which is honestly a more respectable stat.
Yeah, they were in Season 3 of GX, but the cards came out when GX started. They came out in Duel Monsters era. I'm getting confusing signs there.
And sure, as setting at 2100 could occasionally save you a turn back then. Still, there's not much of this one besides being a wall. Sorry, they call him Iron Wall, Renge. Who's they? The commoners he oppresses with his giant yugioh hands? Also, that's just inappropriate. Their first effect monster is Scar, Scout of Dark World. It's a level 2 with 500 attack and defense, and if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, add one level 4 or lower Dark World monster from your deck to your hand. Due to the sins of Konami's past, we're still in the dredges of the archetype with no signs of their actual game plan, and I can tell you for a fact Scar's battle floating did not contribute much to it either. A slow condition for an insanely limited search made it so that this monster's only claim to fame was in the anime, where he summoned this beautiful abomination before it got decked in the face by Neos and then he fucking died. Finally, we reach what actually constitutes the design of Dark Worlds, with the duo of Kaki, Guerrilla of Dark World, and Gren, Tactician of Dark World.
But they have to be discarded.
With 300 attack and 500 defense, and if Kaki is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, target one monster on the field and destroy it, while if Gren is discarded, target one spell or trap on the field and destroy it. It's a simple formula. Get discarded, things happen.
When you press a button, something awesome has to happen. So button awesome.
While these two weren't predominantly ran, as the deck preferred some more immediate swarming and draw power, they offer the archetype easy spot.
They are named after colors. I guess this is green and yeah, I don't know.
And are still a somewhat popular choice in formats like Edison. Along with that, they're also a good showcase of the Dark World monster's specific wording. See, while none of them miss timing, they only go off by effect discard, meaning sending them from the hand as cost makes the effects fizzle out. I find this curious because while effect discards were much more prominent in the early days of the game, cost discards were beginning to make waves by the time Dark Worlds came around, so I'm assuming the idea was to give this waning form of discarding a strong archetype to make full use of it. I mean, I can't guess the exact intentions behind 20-year-old card design, as I don't think even Konami could with some of these, but you can't say going whole hard.
The game was very different at the time. It's hard to analyze
also,
now.
if it wasn't clear yet due to their deliberately misspelled names, they're based on colors. But unlike, say, Mech Knights, Heralds, or Dustons, which make the color they're based on plainly obvious, the unified demonic look of Dark Worlds often buries their designations in some pretty weird spots in the artwork. Gran, with his huge brain, figured out how to wear a cape that matches his name, but to find the Kaki on this one, you have to observe the meticulously lined fade, which I imagine the Kaki in question cut by himself as head of the Dark World barbershop. Their first level 3 is Brow, Huntsman of Dark World.
Oscar saved my life a ton while playing in the draft through of right through the ages of Leaves Discord server. I also played. Oh, I feel like these are cards that you playing like those formats, right? For fun, they sound like really cool. These are the top players. The difference between this card for effect and this card for cost. Oh, yeah. I guess like the Yu-Gi-Oh players were learning how to read at the time. We're still getting through it. I just wanted to make a Dark World in MD, but my god, are they expensive? Wait, they're expensive? I thought Dracotail and Heroes were expensive. Wait, Dark World is more expensive than Dracotail? Wow.
He's got 1400 attack and 800 defense, and if this card is discarded to the graveyard by card effect, draw one card, or if it was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, draw two cards instead.
Oh, wow.
This kind of draw power could only be achieved by someone with an equally powerful tie gap. Brow was a staple for the longest time,
Look at those
giving an
ties, I
incredibly
just
easy way
realized.
to dig through your deck, becoming a pot of greed when comboed with some other archetypal support. Not to mention, these were the Wild West days, at least before Infernities made it literal.
Cowboys 2, Cowboys 4, Cowboys 16.
So there's not a semblance of a
What?
once per turn limitation on this card or most of his buddies. He's not necessary to run nowadays, as the deck's gotten better methods for consistency boosting, but to simply say he served his purpose would be a huge understatement. However, if you didn't stop reading the effect of the first half because you hate drawing like some kind of dark artist, you might have
Good timing, good timing, good timing.
notice the upgraded version of the effect that triggers when discarded by an opponent's card. This is a common theme with a lot of Dark World monsters that would either make for a nasty surprise for the opponent after using a hand discard effect on their first turn, or simply make them not use those cards at all after seeing you're playing Dark World.
I assume there is a card in Dark World that turns one of the effects of an opponent. For example, like when an opponent activates an effect and then you activate another effect that says turn that effect into your opponent discards a card. So that's how you make your opponent make you discard cards. I don't know. I don't play Dark World, but that would be my first assumption, right? I can see that happening. I can see it being part of it. Yeah. Oh, you cannot get them from packs. Oh, that's why you have to craft them. Interesting. Apparently, are notorious for special summon spam. Yes, Dark World has such a card. Okay, makes perfect sense then.
Because of the implication. Thankfully, Konami had the right idea to not make the monster effects solely dependent on the opponent's actions, for the most part. So while there are ways of triggering these abilities by yourself with a few pieces of support, they're not totally crucial to your playstyle, which is a good thing. Moving right on to the level 4s, we have Beige, Vanguard of Dark World. He's got 1600 attack and 1300 defense, and a simple effect saying, if this card is discarded to the graveyard by card effect, special summon this card.
Oh, that sounds really good.
If I was making it, I would have also made it so that if it was discarded by an opponent's card effect, you normal summon it from the graveyard. Ooh, let's make this game state a little esoteric. Beige was initially a serviceable monster that only became better with time, as the evolution of the Extra deck gave a lot of flexibility to archetypes with simple field swarming, but it's not like it was bad on release.
Wait, we just started, but I really like these cards. I really like these cards, like they're Archetype and they're so simple. You can tell that there is a theme in the art, in the names, and in the effects, but they are also simple, but you can tell that they all go together. Pepper, let me tell you that 2 high-level monsters. Well, I'm sure I'm gonna be told that in the future, right? Here in the video. So don't worry, we got this.
Having multiple Dark Rolls with different effects in the hand and activating card destruction is a play that really never got old. Along with that, it's also an easy target for some looping within the deck, which we'll get to later, and if you're really desperate, 1600 is a decent body for a level 4. It runs over some of the Ryzios.
Yeah, Ryzios.
Coming rogue potential! Their other level 4 in the early lineup was Braun, Mad King of
That's the guy!
He's got 1800 attack and 400 defense, and when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can discard 1 card. There might have been a blip in this deck's timeline where this was ran to reliably trigger your discard effects, as the options used to be pretty limited. However, this absolutely did not last. Braun ended up being remembered more as the guy that
that doesn't sound like a good effect.
Rather than any contributions to the meta. It's crazy how the anime had to make up evil orbs with magic powers to make all your friends hate you, when in reality you can just play Fluwanderies. Coming up though is the real bread and butter of the deck, the level 5s Gold, Bread Lord of Dark World, and Silva, Butter Lord of Dark World. They each have 2300 attack and 1400
Gold and
defense.
Silva?
If they're discarded by a card effect, you special summon them, and if it happens to be an opponent's card effect, Gold lets you target and destroy 2 of the opponent's cards, while Silva makes them place 2 cards from their hand on the bottom of their deck. I'm aware Gold's effect has a different wording on the card itself, but we'll get into that mess later. To wrap your head around how big of a deal these 2 were at the time, you need to look at it from the perspective of them coming out right after Cyber Dragon. If Cyber was like introducing a Colt 1911 to the Stone Ages, then these 2 were like holding a pair of them akimbo with extra attachments. Sure, they didn't
you can just summon Cyber Dragon and then tribute it to summon this. And these are like big effects. Damn. Wow.
The game, but a free 2300 body on a discard is honestly still pretty decent, so you can imagine how mind-blowing it was almost 20 years ago. But naturally, it doesn't.
They can dig you out? There's an unwritten rule that you never maxi Dark World. Oh, interesting. You just summon out of stuff, I guess.
Discard, Gold offers spot destruction way stronger than any Monarchs at the time, while Silva hits them with some really heinous hand ripping that's only outclassed by straight up banishing. It's interesting to see how Dark Worlds countered the usual method of discarding by punishing the opponent with multiple pops or an even more twisted form of hand removal, ensuring that whatever was left of hand disposal strategies became even riskier to utilize. because of the implication. Initially, gold was the preferable choice, with silver phasing into wider usage over time due to aggressive hand loops with future support, to the point of turning the archetype into a more obnoxious version of what it countered during its inception, and only recently getting unbanned in masterduel after more than a year.
What?
It's one of the
This
most
was
notorious
banned?
Dark World monsters, as it can still leave the opponent with 1 card on the first turn, or even 0 on occasion, in what's essentially an FTK. All this makes the deck a great choice to pilot if you plan on quitting the game, as you will gradually see more and more people refusing to play with you. So obviously you run it. On the other hand, we have something a bit less iconic. Their original boss monster is the level 7 Ringenbux, Overlord of Dark World. He's got 2500
remember
attack
this
and
card.
1800 defense, and if this card is discarded from your hand to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, special summon this card from the graveyard. If summoned this way, destroy all monsters your opponent controls or all spells and traps they
Okay.
control. If it was discarded by your card effect, whoop-de-fucking-do, he's dead. I always found it baffling that out of all the Dark Worlds, this is the only one that goes off exclusively on the opponent's discard. I guess after the
Yeah, that's a
insane
little
initial
weird.
showing, they felt the need to rein in the archetype a little bit, which is why the designated big boy had to suffer. Mind you,
Give-
these are
give him a
fine effects
little-
and
a
would
little
probably
effect
make
at
the card
least.
worth running if it did anything else. The way it is right now, you have 2 different nuke abilities crammed into a condition you'd much rather be looping with silver than dedicating to mass removal. It's a complete waste, especially because a much later boss monster that was teased nearly as
Sorry, but I cannot stop thinking about how the balls in there look like the Mega Stones in Pokemon. It's like he's ready.
long as the archetype existed, requires you to run this total brick. We'll get to that one in a while, but in any other case, don't bother with this one. The first normal spell is Dark World Lightning. It lets you target 1 set card on the field, destroy that target, and then discard 1 card. At the time of limited MST, when decks scrambling for backrow removal had to either make do with generic downgrades or resort to archetypal methods for it, Dark World Lightning stood out as a decent example of the latter. While only targeting set cards, it made up for it by also letting you target face-down monsters that could be big walls, have battle floating, or flip effects. Wait, Morphing Jar? Fuck, why'd I destroy that? I need it! Along with giving you a discard you could use with Dark Worlds. At this point I probably don't have to elaborate why that's good, but just in case you were busy with falling sand on the other monitor, when discard feel good in World of Dark. You don't run this anymore, but you sure did back then. Their other normal spell from the pre-structure deck days came a bit later in the form of Dark World Dealing.
Whoa, this card is still used, right? Each player draws 1 card and each player discards 1 card. I feel like I've seen this like in Exodia decks, just to cheese people with this. This is still a card that I see like every now and then in Master Duel.
It simply says, each player draws 1 card, then each player discards 1 card. 3 copies of this and Drag Down into the Grave used to be synonymous with Dark Worlds for the ability to leave the opponents wondering if there's something deeply fucked up and wrong at the core of the game they're playing. This one stuck around for a pretty long time, even a bit outside of the archetype due to its versatility, but nowadays you'd much rather go through your deck without giving the opponent free cards and graveyard setup.
Useful.
You can't be playing nice here, bro. This is the Dark World. Go club that Melfi for life points. Once an absolute plague of a card, today basically replaced by the Danger Engine. Feel free to run those instead. The only quick play spell in the first lineup is Gateway to Dark World. It lets you target 1 Dark World monster in your graveyard and special summon that target. You cannot summon monsters that turn you activate this card, except by this effect, but you can normal set. I'd say the limitation is a bit much, but the advantage these guys were generating was already a few years ahead of its time without free revives, so I understand the need to do this every now and then. Dark Worlds mostly functioned as beaters back in the day, so if you couldn't get a body on the field by usual means, this was a tolerable way to go about some recovery. Right now though, I'd rather take my 30 summons per turn, thanks. Also, this is one of the only cards in the strange, tiny handful that restricts your summoning for the turn but lets you normal set, which I find hilarious. Is this the gate that Wrench keeps? Dark World Grimoire is a continuous spell that says, during your end...
Sorry, what was that?
Find hilarious. Is this the gate?
No less than 2,200 attack allowed. And this is a stack of anime figures. Interesting.
That Wrench keeps? Dark World Grimoire is a continuous spell that says, during your end phase, if you discard monsters to the graveyard because you had more cards than your hand size limit...
What? When is that gonna be used?
God. You can target one of those monsters, special summon that target.
That's...
I mean, while we're on the topic of seldom mentioned terms...
This is never gonna get used. I cannot imagine this. Jesus. There were Sky Striker builds using dealings. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I can see it. When it just came out.
How about fucking hand size limit? Hell, I'm willing to wager a good chunk of people watching this aren't even aware it's a real mechanic.
Yeah, because it never comes out. It never comes out.
In the case that you have more than 6 cards in your hand and nothing to do with them, and you didn't activate the meta-destroying hieroglyph lithograph earlier in the duel, you can finally put that Tycoon number 2 on the field during the end phase. Usually I give some credit to goofy generic cards like these because I'm entertained by imagining the gimmick decks based around them, but doing that for Dark World Grimoire just kinda makes me sad. They could have made some Heart of the Underdog Turbo Enthusiast day by at least letting it summon all the monsters you discarded, but instead he had to face the harsh reality that it just wasn't in the books for him. Don't run this in anything, let alone Dark World. Also, why are there drippings on this thing? Did you fuck the boxcar? The Forces of Darkness is their first normal trap, and it lets you target 2 Dark World monsters in your graveyard, add those targets to your hand. It's a 2-for-1, which, like most of this lineup, used to be something decently cool at the time of the spell, it would be way better, right? Card made it a less than ideal way to retrieve your guys even back then. This is more like the Benches of Darkness. Their last card in this section is the other normal trap, Dark Deal. When your opponent activates a normal spell card, pay 1000 life points, the activated effect of that normal spell becomes your opponent discards 1
okay, this is what I meant. Okay, this makes perfect sense. That's how you summon the boss monster. But it's 1 random card, so it has to be your only card in your hand so you can guarantee it. But yeah, in mind, your opponent just activates a normal spell, you pay 1000 life points, and then their whole field gets destroyed. That's so funny.
It's honestly kinda crazy to me that this came out in the original wave of Dark Worlds, because it feels like one of those training wheels cards that way worse archetypes don't receive for several years. That said, while it did give you a more reliable way to trigger the stronger discard effects, it still relied on the opponent to an extent, and the choice was random, so it was more of a desperation play than anything. The deck will
it seems like a good card, especially because you get a lot of effects for that. I don't know. I actually don't know how good it will be at the time, but like, it doesn't seem bad. That is 100% what the newest boss monster effect should have been. The newest. Interesting. Nope, never used. It was not even included in the second structure deck, dude. How shit it is. Really? What? Really? It sounds good. Okay, well, I guess I don't know anything about the game.
So Dark Deal just remains as an old curiosity. Also, Skull Servants did it better. Dark Worlds enjoyed their first few years in the spotlight as a consistent, aggressive deck with a lot of field presence and even more peeled pheasants. However, it's the 2011 structure deck Gates of the Underworld that would usher the archetype into what's easily its most iconic and infamous era.
It's not bad, it doesn't scream, I need to discard these cards. Well, yeah, that's what the archetype is, right? If you... if you're playing that archetype because you need to discard stuff. Well, I don't know what else to tell you. That's what the archetype is. It means Grimoire? Oh, the Grimoire. Okay, my bad. Maybe random discard because the opponent making you discard is better. The book is bad and this trap is also bad. I got it and I didn't put it. That is my deck. Oh. You rather do that yourself than rely on your opponents doing it for you? Yeah. But the cards get extra effects if the opponent is the one that discarding them. That's why you need this trap. I guess, yeah, I know it just still depends on your opponent activating a spell. But I feel like at the time, normal spells were like super common, right? I don't know, I would assume so. That I cannot imagine an opponent not playing a single spell card in most matches. Alright.
We start off with a level 1 Ceruli, Guru of Dark World. He's got 100 attack and 300 defense, and if this card is discarded to the graveyard by card effect, special summon this card to your opponent's field in defense position. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dark World card, your opponent discards 1 card. While it did take 6 years in reality, going from Dark Deal straight to this should do a good job at showing how much Konami wanted you to use those secondary effects. Discarding Ceruli means you got immediate access to all of your Dark World's abilities without resorting to a trap card with a specific condition, because for anyone who's unaware, activating on the opponent's side of the field means you discard by their effect. However, it did require you to have a discard enable in the first place, alongside the Dark World monster you wanted to use the effect with, which made the card a bit less consistent than it initially seemed.
Yeah, this feels worse because it requires a lot of stuff. These are all cards that come only in the structure now, Pepper. Okay. I mean, taking an opponent's effect and turning it into discard 1 card would be great. Then Jewel Archetype basically stole that idea. Yeah, you make him destroy a Jewel, right? And then you get something for destroying. You will, yeah.
That, combined with the potential of giving the opponent a free level 1 at the tail end of the Synchro era, made Cerulli mostly fall by the wayside for another 6 years or so. But eventually, with access to links like Security Dragon and Akashic Magician, the card became a lot more abusable, as you can now easily bounce it back and activate the effect multiple times in a turn. Is it clear yet why Silva is a problem? This also makes Dark Worlds one of the only decks that can semi-consistently play triple tactics cards on turn 1, which is both annoying and funny, since I imagine people going, wait, I didn't even do anything! Finally, there's also the off chance you just summon him with a Dark World effect to your side of the field, which still nets you a discard from the opponent's hand. This could either be very good, or it could be a mirror match. You are your own worst enemy. A single Cerulli is like a sprinkle of MSG for this deck, so while you can do without it, your combos wouldn't be nearly as tasty.
Actually, no, I think this sounds better. Now that I read it again, it really sounds better.
Next up, we have Snow, Unlight of Dark World. She's a level 4 with 1700 attack and 0 defense, and her effect text was written by a deranged Hungarian alchemist during the 1600s. If this card is discarded to the graveyard by card effect, if it was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, add one Dark World card from your deck to your hand, then special summon that target, if any, in defense position.
Excuse me, what? If this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, if it was discarded from your opponent's wait. If this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, if it was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard. Semicolon. Add one Dark World card from your deck to your hand, then special that target, if any. So what? Okay, is this card okay? So what happens if it's discarded just by me, right? Not the opponent. If this card was discarded by a card from your opponent's effect, you can target one monster. Okay. So what it does is that I add one Dark World card from my deck to my hand, right? But if it's by the opponent's effect, the card that I target is a special summon. Okay. It's just a weird way to write it, but it makes perfect sense. Yeah. No, I get it. I understand. But I understand now, right? I understand now that I'm an adult and I play Yu-Gi-Oh every day, right? But I mind playing this in 2005, 2006, and be like, what are you what? This makes absolutely no sense. Am I in the tournament disputes with it? No, I think it's clear for a tournament. You have a judge. This is easy to explain. I think like everyone will know, right? If you understand it one time, then yeah. But I imagine at the time there weren't effects like this. It sounds like so overly complicated for no reason.
Why do they call it discard if you discard and discard that card with discard? The threatening placement of colons and semicolons in Snow's effect is a consequence of problem-solving card text, occasionally causing problems. While it is written in line with the TCG's formatting, specifically in relation to when each part of the constant effect happens, which is why Gold's effect was reworded to be the same way, most people will find themselves perplexed for a minute before figuring out what the card actually
No, that's exactly what happened to me.
It lets you search on any discard, and if it happens to have been an opponent's effect, you target a monster in their graveyard beforehand and then revive it to your field after the search. And yes, of course it's way more comprehensible in the OCG. Maybe you have enough experience with the game that this is nothing too special to you, which is fair, but let's hear about it from the bright-eyed average Joes who aren't quite as familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh's bullshit.
Pro Europeans try to decipher Snow's effect for 20 minutes? No.
Here is the card Snow, Unlight of Dark World. Read the effect out loud and then tell me what you think it does.
If this card is discarded to the graveyard by card effects, if it was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect,
you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard.
Add one Dark World card from your deck to your hand.
Then special summon that target, if any, in defense position. Okay, but...
If this card is discarded to the graveyard by card effect, if it was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, why is it saying the same thing twice?
Okay, yeah, so right? It feels like that.
Other effect discards this one, Snow with a double W, quadruple U. Then you can special summon.
So the targeted monster from the opponent's graveyard is the target that I can summon into defense position, if I'm understanding this correctly. If this card is discarded to the graveyard by card effect.
Opponent's card effect or?
Okay, I see the problem here. Is this a typo?
Wait a minute. Wait.
But it feels like a typo, right? It feels like that is wrong. I will see this card and I'm like, wait, this is... I got an error in my card. This makes no sense, right? It actually makes perfect sense, but it is worded horribly. It's worded horribly. It's almost feel like it's confusing on purpose, but it makes sense.
Okay, but why does it say if it's discarded from your hand by an opponent's card effect and then doesn't proceed to say what happens if you discard it with your own card effect? Why is it an if but only has one option? That's what I want to know.
Bro, this is doing my head in because I want to understand this now. What the fuck? What does this mean?
If it's discarded by an opponent's card, but if it's in your hand, so if it's taken from my hand into the graveyard, then I can pick a monster in my opponent's graveyard.
Summon a monster.
You know, it's even like weirder because like these people that are getting like quizzed, I don't know, are also not like native English speakers. So I guess it makes it like even harder. I will know. So
the
yeah.
Opponent's graveyard, but then special summon the target if any.
And why does this happen? Under what condition? If it's
your card is discarded by a card effect. But then it says the same thing but opponent's card effect.
This probably doesn't let you even search, does it?
What do you think happens if it's discarded by your own card effect?
It doesn't do anything.
Wrong.
It does the exact same thing?
When it's discarded by any card effect, it lets you add a Dark World from your deck to your hand, and if it also happens to have been an opponent's card effect, you get to special summon a monster from the graveyard.
Oh, the colons.
What do they mean?
Yeah, nobody explains that.
They're meant to be like conditionals.
Yes.
That's like no.
Oh my god, that is... Oh my, that's so stupid.
Yeah, that's why I understand you
Who
say
wrote
that
like
it's a
this?
sadist who did that.
Did they fucking Google translate this shit?
Okay, so I was half wrong then.
And most people are.
This was worded so weirdly.
Okay, now that I'm looking at it with the new context, it makes sense.
Yeah,
I still hate it.
unfortunately.
though.
Exactly.
But what are you targeting one monster in your opponent's graveyard for?
To special summon it.
Let's special summon that target. Okay. See, I have trouble reading it, but... Okay, but why?
To torture dyslexics. Tragedy of linguistics aside, you run 3 Snow because it's still a great searcher that fetches your entire archetype. In hindsight, there's a cruel irony in the wording being deliberately fucked up just to facilitate the second effect, because you're pretty much never going to use it. Speaking of horrific wording and effects you'll never use, here's their first TCG exclusive, Latinum, Exarch of Darkwood.
Latinum.
It's a level 6 with 1500 attack and 2400 defense, and sports some familiar, charming text saying, if this card is discarded to the graveyard by card effect, if it was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, target one fiend monster on the field, special summon this card, then that target, if any, gains 500 attack. This is just a straight up worse version of
Okay, let's read that again. If this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, if it was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, target one fiend monster on the field, okay? And now you special summon it. Then that target, that is the one from the extra effect, right? This was discarded to your hand, to the graveyard. From your hand to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect, target one fiend monster on the field. And it gains 500. So the extra effect, if it was discarded by your opponent's card effect, is your fiend monster gains 500. It's really simple, but why is it worded like that? Oh,
Enter your graveyard by an opponent's card effect. Target one Fiend monster on the field. Special summon this card. Then that target, if any, gains 500 attack.
yeah, it's like it's just 500 attack. This thing is like level 6. It's so dumb.
This is just a straight up worse version of Silver and Gold. Yeah, I don't really care for removal and hand ripping, just give me 500 attack and I'll be on my way. Nobody says this, TCG, it's a fake person. The only reason you would ever run this is for the level, in case you had some very specific extra deck plays in mind, but there are so many better ways to spend your resources in this deck that the idea is not even worth entertaining. Sorry man, your one saving grace could have been the weird way your effect is written, but Snow already beat you to the punch. Go overlay into Swordbreaker somewhere else. Their other level 6 is Lucent, Netherlord.
I've never seen
It's
this.
got 2400 attack and 0 defense, and if this card is discarded to the graveyard by card effect, special summon this card, then if it was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon one Fiend monster from your deck to either field.
Okay, this is way better written. Like, it's basically the same thing, but it's like way better. This is how they should be, right? There is some ruling reason probably, but this makes like nobody's gonna get confused by this.
By an opponent's card effect, you can special summon one Fiend monster from your deck to either field. And that's what the previous two effects would have looked like if there was no pesky targeting involved. It's a dark
because of the targeting.
Lucent
Yeah,
is
see?
by
Okay.
far the silliest card in the archetype to use with Ceruli, whether it's summoning him with Lucent's effect, or using his discard on Lucent and summoning some big
Your
scary
favorite
fiend
monster?
from your deck,
Interesting.
or both. It's a fun idea for a card because you do get free access to several hundred monsters, including...
Including what? Oh. Avaki? Wait, what is... Wait, what is Avaki? What do I... I don't... When the... Oh my god, I need to read it, but I can't because there is so much text in there. When this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard by battle, both players take 500 damage. What?
Bite shoes, but the card doesn't really do anything else. If you want to use it for fiends unrelated to the archetype, you have to run some inconsistent monsters and potential bricks, while using it for dark rolls kinda breaks the point since they don't really need this guy's help for field swarming. Only play it if you intend on surprising the opponent with a delightful crash bug.
That's so good.
I don't really want this.
Alright, all the small fries out of the way,
That was
so
really
let's
good.
finally jump into the killer whale's mouth.
Oh.
Grapha, Dragon Lord of Dark Rolls,
that's
is
the
level
guy.
8 with 2700 attack and 1800 defense, and you can special summon this card from your graveyard by returning one Darkfold monster you control to the hand, except Grapha. If this card is discarded to the graveyard by card effect, target one card your opponent controls, destroy that target, then if it was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, look at one random card in your opponent's hand, then if it was a monster, you can special summon it to your hand.
What?
Grapha is a stupid card. First of all, I'm offended that the summoning condition even pretends to have a cost, when returning your Dark Rolls to the hand is something you actually want since it lets you loop their effects, so it's technically a plus. This
Yeah.
alone turns Grapha from an imposing boss monster into a key combo piece for most of your loops. Not only that, but specifically coming from the graveyard means you get to summon it right after getting discarded for any other effect and popping a card while at it, all on a 2700 body. As for the secondary discard effect, it doesn't fucking matter. The card already does everything. Summoning a monster from the opponent's hand is hardly imperative to your game plan.
Yeah, exactly. He's already doing so much and you just get more? Why do you need that? The card was so good already. And you just get some extra thing.
Besides, what if you accidentally snag Edo and then have to Concedo? Is that thing pregnant? Grapha was annoyingly difficult to keep away from the field. As the summoning effect gets under Soul Drain and Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, DD Crow needs to hit before the summon is declared as the latter doesn't start a chain, the discard pops Necro Valley, and it doesn't even banish itself when leaving the field after being resummoned.
I always come back.
The card was also a comically easy target for Eradicator Epidemic Virus,
Oh,
ensuring that
right.
whatever you missed ripping with Silva would likely not stay in the opponent's hand for long. Like a lot of the archetype's monsters, working primarily from the graveyard also made Skill Drain a popular choice in the deck, as it could hamstring the opponent while barely affecting your own field. It's a ridiculously versatile
That second effect might be bad because it wasted a monster slot in your field. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. Maybe at the time, right? Because now you can just link someone with that. But I assume maybe it wasn't as good before. I don't know.
monster that made Darkfold.
Does it say you can? Look at one of the kind of your opponents. Then, if it was a monster, you can. So you don't have to. If it's something that is actually useless, you don't have to.
a force to be reckoned with, and is a beautiful classic showcase of players coming together to call a lynch mob for a card that doesn't involve any negation. It's still as much of a central playmaker in the deck as it's always been, and the only way I can imagine this not being the case anymore in the future is if it's replaced by something even more obnoxious.
Yeah.
The first piece of backrow in this wave is the field spell, the Gates of Darkworld. All Fiend monsters gain 300 attack and defense. Once per turn, you can banish one Fiend monster from your graveyard, discard one Fiend monster, then draw one card.
Oh my
well,
god.
They got a total of one use spell in this structure deck, but they sure as hell made it count. Gates is kind of an infamous card because it did so much with so little. For one, it's obviously not a hard once per turn, which means you can play one over another to reset the effect and gain a bunch of discards and draw power in one turn. This was especially crazy with 3 terraforming, although the limit is not really anything to worry about, as they also got a better version of that later on. Stuff like this and all their searchers are the reason why the deck is such a prime draw target.
I ate all the crayons. No more drawing.
The banish cost is negligible, as the chain of discards enabled by Gates in your other cards
I ate all the crayons, no more drawing. That's so good. Why I want that. I want that every That's so good.
will ensure there's always ammo for it in the graveyard. If anything, back in the day it facilitated the use of Trance Archfiend, which was a great discard enabler
Trance
and also recovery
Archfiend.
of banished dark monsters when destroyed. While the attack boost is not massive, it's actually pretty useful as it gets your level 5s into mid-range values, and more importantly, makes Graph a 3k beater. Yeah, take that, yugioh! At the time of Gates' release, field spells were still mostly janky pack filler, which only made its utility that much more impressive. You ran 3 back then, and you still do. The deck's last normal trap is Dark Scheme. It says, your opponent can discard 1 card to negate this card's effect, otherwise both players discard 2 cards, then draw 2 cards.
What?
And they are going to discard 1 card to negate this card's effect.
They are going to discard 1 card to negate the effect. Yeah, you... Yeah, otherwise it's too much, right? Because you discard 2 cards. Both players discard 2 cards and they draw 2 cards. I mean, it depends, right? The opponent needs the cards in the graveyard too. I don't know. Looks
Because
weird.
when you give people
So
2
weird.
options,
Yeah.
they are likely to choose the one they prefer. Quote by Pincus, philosopher of Darkworld. Dark Smog is a continuous trap with the effect. Once per
Not
turn,
that
you can target
doggy.
1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, discard 1 Fiend monster, and if you do, banish that target. This was a pretty good piece of graveyard hate for a couple of years. It triggered your discard effects while messing with the opponent's graveyard setup, putting a damper in stuff like Agents, Plant Synchro, Chaos, Tengu, Boojans, and occasionally Lightsworns.
Hi, doggy.
While way too slow and inefficient to run nowadays, it does introduce us to the lore rivalry between these 2 archetypes, which continues right into their next card, released way later in 2017, Darkworld Brainwashing.
You want more Ryko snacks? You just gotta greet the mailman and then bite his head off.
When your opponent activates
Dude, the poor dog. what's going on? Dude? 2 cards with just 1 scared dog. What the hell?
a monster effect, if you have 3 or more cards in your hand, you can target 1 Darkworld monster on the field, return it to the hand, and if you do, the activated effect becomes your opponent randomly discards 1 card. This seemed neat for a total of 5 seconds before it became apparent how tricky it is to make any good use of it. On one hand, it's a non-once per turn effect interruption with discard enabling that you could potentially loop several times with the right monsters. On the other hand, it's limited to monster effects and requires a really specific setup to be genuinely efficient, primarily due to the hand size requirement and random selection. It's barely an improvement over Dark Deal. You're much better off running generic negation traps or simply more playmakers. How weak-willed were the Lightstones that they fell for this shit? Following the structure deck, Darkworlds enjoyed a comfortable place in the meta for a while, having more draw power and field presence than ever, and employing a playstyle that let them keep up with the evolving design of new archetypes and mechanics. Or so I'm told. They could have faked it. 2022 saw the release of the revised Darkworld Structure Deck as a structure deck called Darkworld Structure Deck. It was a structure world focused on Dark Deck and featured many things you'd expect in a Deck World Structure Deck. Here are the contents of the Structure Deck. Parl, Hermit of Darkworld, is a level 1 with 300 attack and 100 defense.
It's been so long after, but the art style still feels the same. That's so cool. Like, it's a little more detail, I guess. But it feels so nice that they embrace the old type of art. That's cool. I really like it. The lore is that Grapha brainwashed 4 Lightstone monsters and turned them into Twilight Zorn. Oh. Yeah, I don't know much about the Lightstone. I never liked the designs of those cards. I was like, you know, it's kind of boring to me. But I like the idea of Twilight Zorn. Discard one card, lose the game. That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Light Zorn, Doggo becoming Twilight Zorn Doggo. Yeah.
And if this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target one Darkworld monster in your graveyard except Parl, special summon it to either field, then if this card was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon to either field one of your Fiend monsters that is banished or in your hand or graveyard. You can only use this effect of Parl, Hermit of Darkworld once per turn.
Is this good?
Parl, that bricks people! This is not a bad card, but it feels excessive, since most of the Darkworlds you wanna summon back already do that by themselves. The secondary effect giving you another summon that extends to the hand and banishment is cool, but it's not like this deck struggles to build a field without it. It could theoretically be a good extender depending on the circumstances, but most people don't find that designation to make for a card worth running. On a bit more useful side though, we have Genta, Gateman of Darkworld. How many people are there this fucking gate? It's a level 4 with 1000 attack and 1800 defense, and you can only special summon him once per turn. You can discard this card to the graveyard, add one the Gates of Darkworld from your deck to your hand. If this card is banished and you control a Darkworld card, you can special summon this card.
No, it's just a searcher.
Something I like to refer to as devious support design. A new card that might seem basic or even mediocre to people unfamiliar with an archetype, but it's in fact something that makes its fans drop to their knees and praise God. Or maybe
yeah, it helps with for consistency, right? Hello, Ghost Rise Seal. What a cool name. Hi.
He's Satan in this case. Genta comes from the old school of field spell discard searchers, but while those usually made you trade in a beater for the card in question, this one immediately becomes a resource for a draw and a body on the field. And in the funniest decision they could have possibly made with it, the search is not a once per turn. Does terraforming say summon a free level 4? Didn't think so. This could have easily just been 3 extra copies of Gates and it would have been worth running for the utility alone, but the banished summon props it up immensely. Genta and any other Darkworld monster is an instant combo, particularly with Grapha, who lets you pull off the search twice while hitting the field, so it's a fantastic monster all around. In fact, it's so good, you shouldn't run it. Makes turns take too long. For their last main deck monster, we received a long overdue retrain of the original boss in the form of Rainbow Overking of Darkworld. It's a level 8 with 3000 attack and 1800 defense, and you can special summon this card from your graveyard by returning one level 7 or lower Darkworld monster you control to the hand. If this card is discarded to the graveyard by card effect, you can add one level 5 or higher Darkworld monster from your deck to your hand except Rainbow Overking of Darkworld. Then if this card was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Darkworld monster from your deck or graveyard to either field.
What?
They dared to ask the question, what if Grapha searched Grapha? And the answer is a resounding, can you fuck off? I don't have to explain why the summoning condition is fantastic, as we've already seen why one massive level 8 with self-bouncing is a big deal in this deck. The discard effect, on the other hand, while a bit specific, does get Gold, Silva, Grapha, or hell, the original Rainbow into your hand, with the secondary one potentially making for a neat combo with Ceruli. I always find it unusual when a monster this big is primarily an extender, but I guess I can appreciate that it has barely anything to do with its original counterpart.
Yeah, it's like level 8, 3000 attack. What? Don't worry, I don't actually play Rise Seal, so don't let that discern fool. Yeah, okay. You know what? I don't mind if you play Rise Seal. But yeah, it's okay. Oh yeah, it's super rare for an archetype to stay super consistent in its art when it's this old. Yeah, exactly. That's what it meant. You ran that card at 3. Genta is too good to not play. Oh, the previous one. Yeah.
Run 3.
Genta,
and because
Genta.
Rainbow got an upgrade, it was only fitting for Grapha to get one of
No, I bet this is the best card in
the
the
original
world.
Grapha was already a beast, the new one is straight up Beast Wars. Grapha, Dragon Overlord of Darkworld,
Oh,
is a
I've seen
level 10
this.
fusion monster with 3200 attack and 2300 defense, requires fusing Grapha, Dragon Lord of Darkworld with a dark monster, and has the following effect. When your opponent activates a monster effect, or a normal spell or trap card, while you
Jesus.
have a card in your hand, during either player's turn you can activate this effect. The activated effect becomes your opponent discards one card.
Oh,
You can
that's-
only use
that's
this
what I
effect
said.
once per turn. If this fusion summoned card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can special summon one of your Grapha, Dragon Lord of Darkworld that is banished or in your graveyard, then each player with a hand discards
Oh
one card.
my god.
I have to specify each player with a hand because this thing is likely to leave the opponent without any. The archetype finally gets a consistent effect overwrite, albeit with a weird normal backroll limitation. You're just gonna have to learn to accept that Super Grapha can die to Book of Moon. Besides the effect replacing and being the deck's biggest monster so far, it also floats into the OG and makes both players discard if the opponent removes it by any means. It would have been fun if it restored the Grapha to your hand so you could immediately discard it for a pop with the other effect, but you're likely to have a few good Dark Rolls in your hand anyway. Combine this with an easy summoning condition, and you have an ideal boss monster to make on turn 1 with interruption, discarding, and recovery. As an important aside, this is helped out a lot by their archetypal fusion spell.
Oh my god!
Play Dark Rolled Accession. During the main phase,
I wasn't expecting an archetype of fusion spell. That's so cool. Sunege with cool archetype teaming. Totally, 100%.
it lets you fusion summon one Fiend Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing materials mentioned on it from your field or graveyard. If fusion summoning a Dark World monster this way, you can also discard monsters as material. During your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand, then discard one Dark World monster. You can only use each effect of Dark World Accession once per turn. You know how I called Genta devious design? Well, this is shameless design. A quick play fusion spell that gives your archetype free discard setup and lets you banish materials from the graveyard while recovering itself on the same turn with another discard? The DeviantArt has more restraint than this. By far one of the best archetypal fusion spells ever, and you only need to run one because it's stupidly easy to search and recover. It also summons Fiendsmith.
No.
That's how you know it's meta. But yeah, this card coming out from nowhere as a fusion monster, New Grapha gels in perfectly with the rest of Dark Rolls. And even better with my Tearlament pile! As another quick side note, there's also the Ken and Gen duo, with Gen summoning his buddy from the deck to the opponent's side of the field, after which the latter makes you draw 2 cards and discard one. In addition to being really cool generic monsters, these two are great support for the archetype, letting you easily trigger the secondary discard effects if you can expand the summon. Running 3 Gen and 1 Ken is basically stealth Dark World support and does wonders for the deck. And that's where the monster lineup ends, as far as the structure deck goes. However, Konami realized Dark Worlds would never be complete if they still left the players clamoring for that one mystery card. See, on one beautiful spring morning in May of 2007, Braun was making Judai kill all his friends so that he could create super polymerization and summon a Dark World fusion monster known as Chlorless or Colorless at the time. He ultimately failed because Pussy Destroyer was late to the sacrifice party and had to settle for one of the monster's materials as outlined by the effect of Wicked Cannon.
Wait, we never saw that card?
Rainbow. That poor son of a bitch. The anime clearly prioritized the marketing of existing Dark World monsters, which is why this alleged big scary fusion never got any screen time, but the bizarre part is that it then just went unacknowledged for a decade and a half.
Oh my god.
Last year they finally gave us that closure with a level 12 monster, Chlorless, Chaos King of Dark World. It's got question mark attack and defense, requires Rainbow Overlord of Dark World and 2 or more Fiend monsters, and if this card is fusion summoned, you can destroy all cards your opponent controls. This card's original attack and defense each become the number of materials used for its summon times 1000. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can target one face-up card you control, discard one card. Also, your opponent cannot target that face-up card with card effects for the rest of this turn. So, after all that time, all that anticipation, what's the verdict? Well, it's not to be dramatic, but I've wasted my life. Okay, it's not bad, but I do not consider this to have lived up to the hype. Let me explain. Right out the gate, Flawless hits you with a cruel realization that they kept the original Rainbow as the main fusion material. This alone amplifies the standard to which the monster's actual effect is held, as putting Rainbow in a Dark World deck aiming for consistency is like putting a cyanide pill into your bowl of M&Ms for the spice. Why the fusion material wasn't simply a Rainbow monster so you could use the retrain is beyond me, especially with the whole teaming of using colors of the Rainbow to create something without any. When you have people in current year doing combos to dump Versago the Destroyer as material instead of using the one you specified, you've done something wrong. At least they removed the super poly requirement, I guess. Super fusion god any day now! The new Consummon is the only standout part of this whole package, and don't get me wrong, it is good, but it's mostly due to Accession being a quick play so it could potentially be used for interruption. It can result in a board wipe on turn 2, but it can be negate bait just as often. Similarly, the attack boost is kinda overshadowed by Fusion Grapha's stat line, as you will rarely use more than the minimum 3 required monsters to summon this thing, so again, most of the benefit comes from Accession giving you a bunch of discards. This is where I imagine the anime effect would end, as they weren't really big on quick play protection back then, but here it comes off like they just wanted to give you a half-assed quick discard. Like, are you serious? Quick protection from targeting? That just doesn't work. It's like yelling at someone to watch out after the piano already fell on their head. Overall, as a card in and of itself, this is fine.
Right. You're right. You can target one face to discard one card. Also, your opponent cannot target. Yeah, I mean, I think it's still usable, right? But it's weird. That is a... You should make them unaffected or something. Unaffected, I guess, would be worse. I mean, would be better, worse to play against it.
if you can get behind the fusion process. As an overdue representation of a monster that was considered borderline mythical by the deck's fanbase, however, I don't think it's outrageous to say that this is abjectly disappointing. Another long-awaited adaptation of a Dark World card from the same duel also came out around that time, that being Dark Corridor.
Oh.
It's better to darken the sink than to sink in the dark. It's a normal spell that says, add one Dark World monster from your deck to your hand, then discard one card. You can only activate one Dark Corridor per turn. I have a theory that this was originally meant to be released soon after showing up in the JX episode, until someone on the team rightfully pointed out that would be fucking insane. For the longest time, this was kind of unthinkable to print due to how much
at the
advantage it gives to your
time,
deck.
I guess,
So
yeah.
the fact that it's not only out, but running multiples is debatable due to bricking probably says a lot about something. If you know what it is, please let me know in the comments. It's obviously a good card, but don't stock up on too many of them. It's a pretty narrow corridor. Their last normal spell is
But I
charge
mean,
into a
it's
dark-
just like having like triple tactic talents in your deck. Don't do that.
Dark World. It lets you target one level 4 or lower Fiend monster in your graveyard, special summon it, and then discard one Fiend monster. You can only activate one charge into a Dark World per turn. Not a charge as much as a belated stumble. It's another extender that's not necessarily bad, but does things the deck already pulls off without additional help. It is generic, and I guess there are worse things to search with Snow, so run by preference. Dark World Puppetry is a continuous spell that says, target up to 3 cards in any graveyards, banish them, then discard one Fiend monster. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your banished Fiend monsters, add it to your hand. You can only activate one Dark World Puppetry per turn. It carries the legacy of Dark Smog as a decent side card, letting you mess with the opponent's graveyard even harder, and of course, sneakily wording the discard as if it's a downside. The banish recovery is also appreciated, given cards like Gates and Accession, so it's a nice bonus if you do end up playing it. And I gotta say, all this artwork depicting the Dark World's presumably corrupting Raikou gets really funny when you factor in the lore from Master Guide 2, stating they're actually really nice people maintaining order in their realm.
This land is peaceful, its inhabitants kind.
My headcanon now is that the Lightstorm sent in Raikou to Dark World for dog training, and it was so successful that they did the same with a bunch of their troops, including the dragon. Their last continuous spell is Dark World Archives. You know, I bet Gren is reading the script for this very video in there. That's how his head got so big. During your main phase, you can discard one Dark World monster, and if you do, Dark World monsters you currently control gain attack equal to the level the discarded monster had in the hand times 100 until the end of this turn. If a monster whose original type is Fiend is discarded from your hand by the effect of a Dark World card or an opponent's card effect, even during the damage step, you can discard one card, then draw 2 cards. You can only use each effect of Dark World Archives once per turn. This is a phenomenal one-off. Pretty much everything about it is good. Simple discard enabler, potentially huge attack boost to your whole field, and a double draw with another discard that you can activate as a response to the first effect. I mean, you know it's gonna be a good card when it pulls out the even during the damage step. Wouldn't you trust the Royal Rhino with Deceitful Dice? Ignore that second part. Again, running one is ideal as it's easily searchable and one of your best extenders. And the final Dark World card is the counter trap, Dark World Punishment. When a monster will be normal or special summoned, you can negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster, then discard one Fiend monster. If a Dark World monster you control will be destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. You can only use each effect of Dark World Punishment once per turn. If you're going first and your opponent somehow got a turn to play the game, the option to prevent that bastard from doing so is there. In any other case, it's whatever. I've reiterated 100 times by now that Dark Worlds really want to prioritize on-the-spot discarding and field building, and Punishment doesn't really let you do either. The protection is also not that great, as most of your big guys are either easily recoverable or have decent floating effects. This kind of control is not really the Dark World's forte, as they usually achieve it by making extra deck monsters, or don't even need to resort to it after hand looping. Negation is honestly such a boring way of irritating your opponent, considering what Dark Worlds can do with one silver and a line of arcane. Dark World. Dark grades. For the dark consistency, the deck is essentially in a quantum state between drawing its entire combo chain in one turn and irreparably bricking, especially against hand traps. Sometimes you'll have several duels in a row that will have you wondering how this archetype isn't tier 1, and other times you'll have twice as many duels that answer that question. That's
interesting, so it's
the darker
average.
Power is pretty typical for an aggro deck of this sort. Not exactly a dedicated OTK machine, but plenty of easily summonable massive beaters, along with attack boosting effects and some removal. This is a strong 4. As for the Darkly Recovery, there is a decent amount of stuff here that not only serves to extend your plays, but also could restart your combos after a wipe. If you have like 2 cards on backup, you can probably get Grapha back along with a few draws and make your way from there. It's not always the case, but it's enough for a week 3. Then we have the Dark Sum Protection. Honestly, not much going on here, just bits and pieces you barely have access to. It's a 1. Lastly, the Darkest versatility. This is an incredibly flexible archetype. Like most stuff that excels at field swarming, they're very good with exodeck spam, but they've also got some uniquely vile tools of their own. Monsters that spin entire hands back into the deck, bosses that refuse to die, plays that happen away from the field, and the ability to make use of mutual discard effects are all things that still make Dark Worlds a pain in the ass to deal with. As if that wasn't enough, they're basically fused at the hip with dangers, which drastically increases the potency of all their discard shenanigans. There's a lack of standard interruption, and they will die to hand traps, but most decks will also die to the Silver Loop. With all of that taken into account, I'm comfortable giving this a 4. Okay. Here's a deck list that ever so generously features
I don't like this.
And a helpful
what do you mean? Danger? I wanna run danger? I don't like this. Wait, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I feel like a fourth is not like danger, but I guess it's fine.
Discard Fiend Salamander Catalyzer. Be warned when playing this, as you will feel just how annoying you can become the moment you pull off your first combo. It's an intoxicating power. This archetype is evil. Saying that is not really an indictment of its quality, cause both its haters and fans will agree it's simply the fundamental truth about its design.
Why not? They are dangerous? I don't like them. I think they look ugly.
Document. So many unapologetically dirty plays, with barely any breaks to limit the extent of their nonsense, with Konami being perfectly content in letting them maintain that reputation with future support. Personally, me seeing Dark Worlds for the first time was them being hyped up in a Serbian Yu-Gi-Oh magazine back in 2005, so probably learning about the meta 8 years later and seeing they're still around was kind of a surreal experience. While they may not be hanging out with the big shots anymore, they've left a contentious but undeniable legacy, and they are likely to remain the highly adaptable menace they always were. Whether it's a playstyle, sick-ass artwork, or you have a thing for getting yelled at, Dark Worlds have amassed a player base that will ensure that the archetype's despicable ways are here to stay. God help us all.
Nice. Good video. Honestly, good video.
Name?
Ujama.
You sure that's what you want to go with?
No, actually, it's Derek. Derek Police Car.
Suit yourself. Reason for leaving the graveyard? Special summon? Returning to the deck?
I bombed really bad at a stand-up show, and all the Dark World guys recognize me now. It's really embarrassing.
Wait, that was you? Terrible. Approximate duration of your trip?
Between 1 month and about a year, depending on when there's a new episode.
I'll put you down for 2 turns. How will you be departing the graveyard?
I thought you guys handled that.
So no preferences?
I've always preferred the mouthfeel of gravel to sand, but we're to be picky in this economy, am I right? Hey, it's a little joke for you.
We'll have you on the first bus out.
I hate this.
Can't wait to see the sun in the sky again, even if my doctor said I really shouldn't.
Excuse me?
I'm gonna come back to life, like a monster reborn. Right, like a monster.
Where do you think this bus is going?
Can I get off at the next stop? Huh.
Pure Oyama.
So this is what
the poor Oyama lime. Alright, oh my god, Cyber Down. Okay. Cool video, thank you. Honestly, I want to play this. I want to play this. It would have to be like super like hyper consistent in order for me to actually like it. I don't like playing danger, but I like the idea of the deck. I really like it. I use that world, I'm keeping it alive. But I support you. I think it's a really cool archetype. And it's like so old too. But it still makes sense. It was good then, I guess. I don't know. I like it. Thank you so much for recommending this. I feel like I can go against this deck now easily. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.